It's finally poised as we reach the penultimate round of group matches in the Champions League. Arsenal are riding high. We'll hear from Ian Wright on the secret of their success so far. Goal international football writer Chris Vokes joins us to discuss whether he thinks Milan will self-destruct at Celtic. And we'll hear from Fernandinho on life under Manuel Pellegrini at Manchester City. Welcome to the Champions Club. Arsenal currently sit top of Group F with 3 wins and just the 1 defeat. Napoli and Borussia Dortmund trailing the Gunners. But even the most optimistic of Arsenal fans surely couldn't have expected their team to be doing so well both domestically and in the Champions League at the end of November. Could they? Back in March, Arsene Wenger was a man under pressure. His side had been humbled 3-1 at home to Bayern Munich, and the cracks were beginning to show.
Why do you look at me?
But a 2-0 win in Munich, although not good enough for progression in the Champions League, proved to be the catalyst for qualification for this year's tournament. The Gunners sit top of the group with 2 games to play, claiming an impressive 1-0 victory in Dortmund, just weeks after being beaten by the Bundesliga giants on home soil.
Arsenal executed a perfect game plan at the Westfalenstadion to beat Borussia Dortmund. Probably rode their luck on 1 or 2 chances, but what team doesn't in any decent win away from home?
I would have laughed at you at the start of the season if you said to me that Arsenal were going to be leading the Premier League and, you know, a potential challenger for the Champions League.
With little transfer activity over the summer, Arsenal smashed their transfer record with the stunning signing of Mesut Ozil.
A signing of that calibre had to happen, and I was really pleased that it did happen. It's given everybody a lift. And, you know, he's somebody I've been calling for years, that kind of player, in respects of giving the rest of the squad and the team a boost. He's done exactly that, and he's only one person.
The arrival of Ozil has parallels with the signing of Dutch international Dennis Bergkamp back in 1995.
You know, Dennis was exemplary professional in his preparation and everything, and the way he played. When he played, my game went up 50% because of the quality that he exuded every single training session. And that's what I'm sure will happen at Arsenal. When they're training now, and you're training with someone like Mesut, and then when you're training with Dennis, your game will just naturally just be lifted because you have to get to that standard. And then all that's going to do is just breed confidence throughout the whole place.
So is 2014 the year Arsene Wenger finally gets his hands on the Champions League trophy?
I don't think that Arsenal can win the Champions League. I think they still have too many weaknesses. The defence still has question marks. Olivier Giroud is their only forward, and I'm not sure that he's real top quality, even though he started the season well.
Much more is expected of Arsenal in Europe these days because they have the firepower to compete with their rivals in the transfer market. So quarterfinals isn't good enough anymore.
Now Group H is another which sits finely poised going into the penultimate round of games. Barcelona currently lead the way and can secure top spot with a win in Amsterdam this week, but without the talismanic Lionel Messi, their game against Ajax is hardly a dead rubber. Milan sit just 1 point above Frank de Boer's men and will face them at the San Siro in the final group game, meaning a win for Massimiliano Allegri's side on Tuesday will all but secure their place in the last 16. Now Celtic may have won only 6 of their last 45 European matches away from home, but at Parkhead they're a completely different proposition. Goal international football writer Chris Vokes joins me now. Chris, an important game for Milan, not least because to some degree it provides some respite for the troubles they're having domestically.
Yeah, it does to an extent, but they're not performing an awful lot better in the Champions League than they have in Serie A. Certainly the way that they beat Celtic told you a lot, in that it took them until 8 minutes from time to make the breakthrough, having struggled for long periods of the game. And since then they've not picked up a win. They very nearly lost to Ajax. They did okay at home to Barcelona, but then they pretty much outclassed when Barcelona really needed to turn it on in the Camp Nou. So it's not been an awful lot better, and they're in a nice position, but football-wise, it's not been an awful lot better.
If they do manage to qualify, that will deflect the attention a little bit from Allegri and perhaps keep him in a job for a while.
You'd think so. It was the same kind of thing last year. They struggled in the league until Christmas time, or certainly until November when Stefan El Shaarawy had a very good run. But the fact that they got to the last 16 of the Champions League deflected some of that away. And it's almost as though they've changed their boundaries now, whereas 5 or 10 years ago you'd expect Milan to be semi-final, final in the Champions League. The very fact that they're reaching the last 16 is seen as some kind of boost to the club at the moment.
As we've established, Celtic's home form is very impressive in this competition. So how will Milan approach the game, do you think?
Well, they've got to get at Celtic both early and late, I think. Obviously, quietening the crowd, it's a cliche when it comes to Parkhead, but it's very, very true. They'll have to quieten the crowd early. But also, if you look at Celtic's goals conceded in the Champions League this season, 5 goals conceded so far, 4 of them in the last 15 minutes of games. I think if Milan can be at least level late on, then they'll very definitely fancy their chances late on.
OK, Chris, time to put your money where your mouth is. What is the group going to look like come the end of the week?
Probably about the same as it does right now, if we're quite honest. I can see Milan getting at least a draw, but there is that possibility of Celtic getting something, but I just think that a Celtic of 4 or 5 years ago might have been more equipped to get something off Milan this time.
Thanks, Chris. So, do you agree with him? Let us know. Use the hashtag Champions Club. Now, when Manuel Pellegrini was appointed by Manchester City this summer, his brief was simple.
I know that the last 2 years of Manchester City was not very good playing champion, and we'll try to improve the next year.
And he's achieved his goal with 2 games to spare, the 5-2 win over CSKA Moscow, securing his team's place in the last 16. The manager spent over £100 million on players this summer, and one of the new recruits, Fernandinho, firmly believes that Pellegrini is the right man to take them forward.
E ele vem fazendo trabalho muito bom. Ele vem procurando.
He is doing a great job. He is putting the winning mentality in the group, because City in the past 2 or 3 years could not pass through the group stage of the Champions League. So he kept telling us all the time we had to qualify for the next stage and win the Premier League matches in order to be in the top 3. So at the end of the tournament we can have a real chance to win the title.
O nosso objetivo é muito claro.
Our aim is really clear. Our goal is to be in the final in Lisbon on May 25th. All of us have this aim to be in this final.
Now City have qualified for the knockout stages, Fernandinho believes the new signings will flourish.
We started the tournament with a new team, a team that has been rebuilt. We had some tough moments, but the team is coping well with that. Every day, every training session, every game we are becoming a more consistent team. I believe now that we have passed through the group stage, our team has a big chance to go further in the competition.
Nosso time, eu acho que terá muita chance de chegar até as finais, como é o nosso desejo.
Man City host Victoria Pilsen at the Etihad on Wednesday, and you can find out how they get on as well as following the other 15 matches by sticking with us right here on Goal. Arsenal host Marseille, while Ajax will hope to avenge that 4-0 demolition they suffered in Barcelona back in September without the threat of Lionel Messi. Following their draw with Juventus last time out, Real Madrid play host to Galatasaray as Didier Drogba is reunited with yet another former Chelsea boss, while the holders Bayern Munich make their way to IC Russia to face CSKA Moscow. Remember, you can follow all the action on Goal and get involved with the discussion on Twitter. Just use the hashtag Champions Club.